My dear participants, I'm a research scholar of the Faculty of Commerce and Management Studies, that is the both Department of Commerce and Management. And the topic which is already circulated to you, the topic is Introduction to Research Methodology and Research Design. I feel great pleasure to introduce you Professor Dr. Alok Kumar Chakraval, who is a professor in Department of Commerce and Business Administration. He is a resource person as well as a keynote speaker for this session. He is in Saurashtra University, Rajkot, Gujarat, India. He has over 24 years of administrative and academic experience in leading corporate and institutions. He has achieved 3 gold medals in graduation and post-graduation. And one important thing is to share, Professor Alok Chakrawal is also from Varanasi. He has completed his UG and PG from Harrison Postgraduate College, and he is the gold medalist of UG and PG. And he has completed PhD from our university, that is Department of Commerce, Mahatma Gandhi Kashi Vidyapeeth. So we feel honored that he is our alumni also. He has his area of specialization in management, commerce, finance, marketing, research. Till now, sir has guided 16 PhD. At present, he is having 1 major and 1 minor project. He has visited many countries like USA, UK, Thailand, Nepal, and etc. At present, he is also coordinator of IQAC. And I hope very sooner or later, you will see Professor Alok Chakrawal as a Vice Chancellor in any state at the Central University also.
Sir.
We have
such a great introduction.
Resource persons, and he's a man of supportive and helping to each other. So after hearing his lectures, in coming futures, you can have a connection with Professor Alok Chakrawal, because he is also the alumni and will be the good friend of yours also. He will be helpful in your future's career also. Now, Professor Chakrawalji, it's I feel honored to invite you. Please start your lecture, sir. Okay, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And kindly advise me how long I have to continue. So accordingly, I will organize my thoughts.
Oh, okay, sir. You have the time up to the 5. Okay. I hope you can conclude up to the 4:45.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. And my humble submission to the participants and my most respected Jaiswal Sahab, you are such a great friend of mine, and you have given a very exhaustive introduction of mine. So if any doubt or query or question is there, please keep it in your mind. So, or in between, you can intervene in.
Okay, sir. I would like to inform you, I have provided the feedback system to the students. They will submit their feedback on the basis of their lectures. And whatever the feedback I will receive, I will forward to you also. And I believe that they have very less doubt in your lectures, and whatever they want to discuss and ask, they will surely ask and raise to the questions. Clear? You are free to ask any questions. And I am starting this research methodology classes from the resource persons, which is from between the yours, company and the family. Clear? So let us, sir, start.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. So I'm sure I'll be able to justify my presence here. And the very first thing and the foremost important thing, I feel pleasure, I feel happy, I feel, overwhelmed whenever I am receiving an invitation from the Department of Commerce and Management especially Professor K.S. Jaswal sir is like my elder brother, and he always, make sure that I'm always there in all kind of his pursuits and kind of events and assignments, whatever he's taking. So thank you very much, Professor Jaswal sir, from the core of my heart. And once again, congratulations for becoming another term dean for the another term. So, not wasting much of my time, I'll be concentrating on my lecture. So, the topic which has been assigned to me is Introduction to Research Methodology and Research Design. So, I'll try to justify the kind of topic which has been allotted to me. And this is a very interesting topic, first of all. And only thing is that it flows like in a very flawless manner, and it flows like water is flowing in the river. So I'll go step by step. And the very first thing is that what is research? What do you call research? And this is the definition or the kind of statement which has come from the Department of Education and Learning, Western Sydney University. Here, the research is defined as the creation of new knowledge. My dear friends, so the reproduction of PhD thesis is not the is not the research. Research means you are trying to identify something new, which is not been, discussed earlier, which has not been presented to the world earlier, which has not been in the idea and concepts. And see, let me complete it. So, research is defined as the creation of new knowledge and or the use of existing knowledge in a new and creative way, so as to generate new concepts, methodologies, and understandings. So, what is research? Research is defined as the creation of new knowledge and or the use of existing knowledge in a new and creative way, so as to generate new concepts, methodologies, and understanding. And this could include synthesis and analysis of previous researches also, to the extent that it leads to new and creative outcomes. For example, since this is Department of Commerce and Business Management. So maybe, say for example, you are doing a DuPont analysis or Camel analysis or say a Pearls analysis, which is for accounting performance, financial performance appraisal. Now, say for example, one person has carried out in the primary sector, maybe a company who is in the food processing, or maybe a company which is in manufacturing sector, or maybe you are doing a research on financial performance appraisal through DuPont analysis mechanism of Reliance Industries Limited. Now, that's one segment. Somebody has already done the research, but it is not like that other people cannot use DuPont or Pearls or Camel or any other method of analysis. But of course, the industry should be different. Sometimes they say no. If you have done in the span of period of 2010 to 15, now we can do from 15 to 20. You can do it. But my dear friends, there is very less scope of research. Most of the things you are doing a kind of accounting technical analysis, and that if you are giving the name of research, you can give. Nobody is going to stop. But you think as a researcher from your inside, inner heart, whether you are satisfied with that. There are a lot of things we need to understand about. So here is the thing that you need to understand it from the core of your heart. And that's why I will read it again. Research is defined as the creation of new knowledge and or the use of existing knowledge in a new and creative way, so as to generate new concepts, methodologies, and understandings. This could include synthesis and analysis of previous research to the extent that it leads to new and creative outcomes. So, for example, if you are using the old research methodology or the old design or the old concept or pattern which others have already used, then also you can do the research with that. So what happens sometimes that researchers are taking the tools, they are deriving the tools, they are hiring the tools, they are paying the money, like in psychology and human psychology and organizational behavior, OB. So most of the time, researchers are buying the tools from good psychiatrists or psychological experts, or they are buying sometimes from the forms also. So in that case, what happens? Acha, tell me, are you able to see my PowerPoint on your screen, or it's only from my side I can visit? Monuji, Monu, the host, are you able to see my slides? I don't know if anybody is hearing. So,
Hello.
Are you able
Yes.
to?
Yes, sir, audible.
Audible? No, I'm saying, are you able to see my slides?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, visible. Okay. So this another one is that Frascati Manual 2015 and Guidelines for Collecting and Reporting Data on Research and Experimental Development, OECD. You know, OECD is a very big organization. They have given a kind of definition in 2015. Research is a creative and systematic work undertaken to increase the stock of knowledge. So what you are doing, you are adding something to the stock of knowledge. Some knowledge is already there. You are going to add some additional knowledge. You are doing some new dimensions to the knowledge. You are going to add some new facets to the knowledge. So research is a creative and systematic work undertaken to increase the stock of knowledge, including knowledge of humans, culture, and society, and the use of this stock of knowledge to devise new applications. So, I'm sorry, I've forgotten to put inverted comma, closed inverted comma here. So you need to add here, no problem. You can add it. And if you want, you can take the screenshot also of this. So you are adding some new dimensions, new facets. And what does it study? See, what does it study? You are the new stock of knowledge, including knowledge of humans, culture, and society. So, and the use of this stock of knowledge to devise new applications. Now, some of you may think, then why are we sending, lunar mission, solar mission, Apollo mission? We are sending our, astronauts on the different other planets. No, they are going to do researches for the future betterment of the humankind. Whatever researches are carried out, they are ultimately carried out to benefit and to ease the life of the human being. And that is why I study culture also, how the society dynamics are going on, how people are moving ahead, how our life can be more comfortable, more healthier, more happier. So we do pay a lot of attention on that. So this is all is research. Now this is by Waltz and Bansal, not Bansal, but Waltz and Bansal. You know, in India we call Bansal, but that is not the same Bansal. And this definition comes from 1981, almost 30 years back. So a research is a systematic, formal. The word you will find time and again, that is systematic. So research is something which is a systematic pursuit. You have to follow it very systematically and formal and a rigorous and precise process employed to gain solutions to problems or to discover and interpret new facts and relationships. So here is something, it's a very, 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 very cumbersome process. It's a very tedious process, and you have to deploy a lot of time and resources, and you have to, stick to the system. Now, what is system? There is some input, there is some process, and there is some output. And after this output, you are taking it again feedback here. So it keeps on rotating, it keeps on rotating. So once you have done the research, somebody else will come, will check it out whether the findings are okay or there are some flaws, certain flaws. Like I tell you, Charles Darwin wrote a book now named Origin of Species. Might have probably many of you might have referred this book, or especially those students who are from zoology or biosciences or life sciences. They know about Origin of Species. That has been written, a wonderful book by Charles Darwin. And he gave a kind of theory of transition of species from one breed to another breed. But It was a perceived principle, an approved principle, a thumb rule till late 20th century. But now scientists are defying that principle given by Charles Darwin. They say, no, what Darwin said, that is not correct. Now today something different is correct. Those who are working on the genetics, or who are working on the DNA, or who are working on the life sciences, or animal sciences, or human sciences, so they are defining this. So it means it's a systematic process. What? Somebody has done something, but then somebody will come and who will again think about it and reprocess entire thing. So what is research? Research is a systematic and most important. If you're doing something and you are getting some inferences out of fluke or something like that, excuse me. So in one shot, if you're getting something and if you are going to make it as a precedent, or if you are going to make it a principle, no, it is not possible. Research always says that it should be reproducible. Whatever you are proving, that should be proven everywhere in all conditions. So now I'm not, there are two types of sciences. One is pure science and the other one is applied science or social sciences. So pure sciences principles are different, applied sciences principles are different, social sciences principles are different. But in all kind of sciences, you will have to prove what you are saying, that this is the outcome of research. And if that is correct, that has to be repeated time and again. And it's rigorous and precise process. Now, there has to be very less margin of margin of mistakes. And that is why we always go like, 5% of significance. Level of significance is 5% or 3%, or 3% or 1%. Now, these days I have seen scientists at Harvard, which is in Boston, USA, they have started using 10% of significance level. That's a very unique thing. I mean, I found it in last 10-15 years, they have started using 10% of level of significance. But I'll come to that, what is level of significance, later on. I hope all of you are comfortable with my language and communication. Monuji, you can give your response on this. If it is okay, then I'll move further.
Yes, sir. All is okay.
Okay. I'll tell you wonderful thing. Kerlinger, it's a very big name in research methodology. Probably Kerlinger was the person who first wrote an authentic book on research methodology. So if you get the book written by Kerlinger, he gave this definition in 1873. So almost 150 years back. You just think about it. How long back? I mean, he gave a very wonderful book, a piece of work which is really adorable. So what he says, research is a systematic. Now see, again, systematic word is repeated time and again and again, you'll find research is a systematic. Now, second thing is that controlled. You are having certain control over it. And what is that control? We will discuss later on. Research is a systematic, controlled, empirical, and critical investigation of hypothetical propositions about the presumed relations among natural phenomena. So there are certain things which are happening naturally. So of course, there are certain shortcomings and pitfalls of this definition. So I'm not going into that. But what he says, I would like to elaborate that certainly. Research is a systematic, controlled, or systematically controlled. You can say rather that I've taken the exact word. I'm not making any alteration in that. So research is a systematic, controlled, empirical, and critical investigation of hypothetical propositions about the presumed relationship or relations among natural phenomena. Something is happening naturally. Something is happening around you. Like why there is rain in certain rainy season only, why it doesn't rain in other seasons, why there is so much scorching heat in some particular season, why there is so much, severe cold in certain season. So that's a climatic cycle, and Meteorological experts are studying that, and they are telling you the reasons about that. Why cyclones are moving from one direction to another direction? Why El Nino effect is there? Why certain tsunami or whatever is happening? And what is the mechanism of giving a nomenclature to particular things? So they are having a science, and these are the natural phenomena. They are studying that. Like reproductive system. I mean, there are biological expert who are teaching physiological things, and then the expert of physiology will tell you how things are happening. And so they are trying to, research is trying to understand how it happens, why it happens, when it happens, why does it happen, who is responsible, and how can we make changes in that? If we withdraw one element and if we add certain elements, what will happen to the results? And what will happen to the ultimate outcome? So, research is something where you are trying, like, see, uh, decoding genetics. Now, you see how where we have reached. Now we can have a child or baby of our own desire, the kind of intellect, the kind of qualities, the kind of attributes, the size, the height, the color complexion, and the appearance, the future, blondes, black, fair, black hairs, brown eyes, blue eyes, green eyes. These all things can be controlled. And how it happened? Because of research was there. Because researchers tried to decode the genetic genomes of human body and the chromosomes and all these things they could do. And that is why it is happening. This is happening. Why? Because people are doing research and it is systematic. So here is control. The meaning of control. Now we are able to control the genetics of human being. Here we are able to control the market movements. Here we are able to control the consumer behavior. Here we are able to. So that is the, again, kind of this different, but the environment of research is also controlled, the variables are controlled, so you are putting them in a static mode and you are able to draw out a conclusion or a kind of inferences or kind of final conclusion which is giving you a solid and concrete understanding of the particular phenomena, and therefore you are able to do certain things. And see, there are commercialization, they are used for the business purposes, and they're used for the human civilization, they're used for the betterment of life, they're used for so many things. So research is a systematic, controlled, empirical and critical investigation of hypothetical propositions. You believe certain things, you think about certain things, and but when you are actually going to check it out, whether they are as per your perceptions or they are beyond your perceptions, researches may prove your hypothesis and researchers may disapprove your hypothesis. In both the condition, a researcher should not get disappointed. Researcher works is to find out the fact. What does a researcher is doing? He is finding the facts and bringing the fact before the society, before the world, before the a community who are interested in studying those researches. So what is research? Research is a systematically controlled empirical and critical investigation of hypothetical propositions about the presumed relationship among natural phenomena. So you believe certain things, that if x plus y is xy, or 2 plus 2 is 2, that is perceived. But if there are different dimensions of it, you have to check it out. Python, you don't need to call it Python, yeah, Python, but Python you can call the scholar whose name I have written on the downside of the slide. Python is a researcher, and he has given a very good definition of research. So what is that? Research is a process of looking. So the first thing is that you're trying to see into, you're trying to get into the particular thing, or you're to get an insight of something. So research is the process of looking for a specific question in an organized, objective, and reliable way. Research is the process of looking for a specific question in an organized, objective, and reliable way. So, the very first thing is that you should have a question. A researcher should always come with a statement of the problem. A researcher should always come with certain, specific queries. Why it's happening? Why it is happening? Why it is so? Why certain things are moving like that? I mean, if you are a true researcher, you will always ask a question, always ask a particular question, always ask a general question, a rhetorical question about question. So, question makes you a perfect researcher when you are starting putting questions. But my dear friends, the scenario is that, especially about research scholars who are doing master's degree, they are doing project for their master's degree, or the MPhil students or the PhD scholars, I find hardly any student is going to ask his PhD guide, sir, why this is so? Why you want me to do work on this particular topic? No, that is wrong. So question is important. If you are putting question, certainly I'm sure you are going to do good research. Kothari, I mean, my dear friends, you are using very widely this C.R. Kothari. Kothari means that is C.R. Kothari, and whose research methodology book is very popular, especially in northern India. It is very popular book. Research is a pursuit of trust with the help of study. Means you are studying something and you are trusting your study, and it's a pursuit of, it's a kind of your purpose, your process, your endeavor, your striving, and you are moving in a direction, and you are trying to trust something which has been studied by you. Observation, comparison, and experiment. The research or the search for knowledge through objective and systematic method of finding solutions to a problem. So this is something very interesting definition, and C.R. Kothari has tried to put a very concrete and compressed understanding of research. See what he's saying. I would like to. So it's a pursuit of trust. Means you are believing what you are doing, and what is that? Research is a pursuit of trust with the help of study, observation, comparison, experiment, the search for knowledge through objective and systematic method of finding solutions to a problem. So this entire is a research. You are not trusting anything without study. You are not trusting anything without observation. You are not trusting anything without comparison. Say, for example, somebody says, oh, State Bank of India is a very good bank. How can you say? Have you compared it with public sector banks, other public sector banks? Have you compared it with certain private banks? Have you compared it with certain foreign banks? Have you compared it with certain cooperative banks? When you are comparing, then comparing its services, its facilities, its charges, its interest rate, interest on your saving bank account, current bank account, recurring account, fixed deposit, or the charges on the loans and all that. And if you are having a comprehensive study and comparison, say for example, there are 20 odd number of public sector banks, and then you are comparing all those banks, and then you are finally coming to a conclusion that no, State Bank of India is the best bank. On what criteria, on what parameters, on what kind of continuum, what kind of scale. So you had to have a very systematic study of that. You are comparing them, and then you are saying no, State Bank of India is the best. Otherwise, if you feel like no, State Bank of India is good, see, I'll come later on also on that. There are basically two types of researchers. Now, there are many categorization, but basically two categories. One is quantitative research, and the other one is a qualitative research. Say, for example, I invited you on dinner to my place. You had a very wonderful, dinner, 2-layer dinner, 3-layer, 5-course dinner, 7-course dinner. This is English kind of style that first, some soups are coming, starters, then welcome drink and this and that. And then main course, then some ice creams and puddings and coffee and all these things. At the end, you felt very highly satisfied. But you cannot quantify it. Then you have to qualitatively assess. And there is a qualitative assessment in quantified manner that you are going on the scaling, Likert scaling, 5-point scaling, 7-point scaling. Or when you are visiting a hotel, they are offering you a rating card where 0 to 10 or 1 to 10 marking is given, that how far you are satisfied with the services of the hotel, like about food and beverages, about the services and all that. So you should have to had certain quantitative analysis experiment, like one boy of the chemistry, he is trying to find out impact of fluoride on the health of human beings. So how can, say for example, in one particular region of Banaras or Uttar Pradesh, you find the water is very much added with the natural salt or fluoride or something, and people of those regions are mostly affected with certain kind of diseases. Then you are coming to conclusion, no, the reason for this disease is the water of that region or food habits of the people. No, you are having an observation, but is that observation, or is that comparison, or is that whatever you are saying, is that based on some systematic study? No. If you don't have systematic study, then there is no need of making any statement. So I'll again read it out. Research is the pursuit of trust with the help of study, observation, comparison, and experiment, and search for knowledge through objective and systematic method of finding solutions to a problem. Now, I have taken definitions from various sources, number of sources, and this is from Webster Online Dictionary. These days, people are using very profusely Wikipedia. My dear friends, Wikipedia is not a reliable source, so please avoid it. But Webster is a very authenticated online dictionary from where you can have a very good definition of that. And what does it say? If you allow me, I will have a sip of water. Thank you very much. Moniji, how many participants are there in all?
45 participants are available.
45? अरे क्या बात है, तो वो एक जगह हाल में ही बैठे हुए हैं क्या?
जी सर.
Okay, fine. So a studious inquiry or examination, especially investigation or experimentation aimed at the discovery and interpretation of fact, a revision of accepted theories or law in the light of new facts, or practical application of such new or revised theories or law. This is what. So I'm not going to discuss it much, because there are a number of things which I have to. So I'll just let it go by, because there are a number of definitions. So spending much time on the definitions. And research as a serious study of a subject that is intended to discover new facts or test ideas. Wonderful. Sorry, this is come in between. And research is an art of scientific investigation, and this is an anonymous statement, but I liked this very small and very sweet statement about research, that is, research is an art of scientific investigation. So something out of blues, something comes to your mind, and you are saying that this is research. Sorry, that will not be considered research, but research is a systematic, scientific, effortful, and organized study. So Clifford Woody says that research comprises defining and redefining defining and redefining problems, formulating hypotheses or suggested solutions, collecting, organizing, and evaluating data, making deductions, and reaching conclusions, and at last, carefully testing the conclusions to determine whether they fit the formulating hypothesis. Schlesinger and M. Stephenson in the Encyclopedia of Social Sciences, 1930, 91-year-old, definition is that research is the manipulation of things, concepts, or symbols for the purpose of generalizing to the to extend, correct, or verify knowledge, whether that knowledge aids in construction of theory or in the practice of an art. So again, Clifford and Woody is there. I'm not going to talk about that. My dear friends, now I'm coming to the very important question. What is the objective of research? Why somebody does research? Why a person is interested to go for research? क्या कारण है? Why people are so much, mad after research these days, especially these days? Do you know India's contribution to the total overall global contribution in research papers and research outcomes is hardly 2%, not more than that. But our population is almost 16% of the global population. So in proportion of our population, we are contributing very less. So let us see and understand what are the objectives of this research is. The very first thing is that to gain familiarity with a phenomena or to achieve new insight into it. Of course, yes, people are looking for doing the research because they want to understand new phenomena. They want to understand a new insight into certain problems on certain substance, certain objects, or certain things. So, and studies with this object in view are termed as exploratory or formative research, formulative research. So any person who is going to find out such kind of idea or concept, that kind of approach and that kind of study is named as exploratory or formulative research study. There are people, they have a different objective to portray accurately the characteristics of a particular individual, situation, or a group. And such kind of studies are known as descriptive research studies. There is diagnostic research studies also, and they are to determine the frequency with which something occurs or with which it is associated with something or with something else. Like for example, why cancer happens, why somebody are ill of certain things, why people are suffering from certain diseases or certain kind of allergies or certain kind of ailments. So that we can say that's a diagnostic one. And most of us, we are doing hypothesis testing research studies to test a hypothesis of a causal relationship between variables. Now, those were the types. Still, I have not explained you the kind of types. I'll come later into that. But here is the motivation of research, why people are motivated. And what makes people to undertake research? This is a question of fundamental importance. One thing, very important. Why you are, you 45 guys sitting out there in Kashi Vidyapeeth, and I'm sitting almost 2,000 kilometers away from you in Gujarat, Rajkot. And we are discussing something, why to do research. So the very first motivation is that to desire to get a research degree along with its consequential benefits. Now, what are the consequential benefits? There are people who will get some promotions. There are people who will get some increments. People in the field of academics will get some increments. Even in non-academic fields also, PhD is associated with certain service benefits. So people are getting certain benefits because of the degree. And now in the new education policy, National Education Policy 2020, they have mentioned that degree, PhD degree will be a required qualification to become a lecturer or assistant professor in a university or college or any higher educational institution, HEI, which has been repeated many places. HEI, this is the word which is gain a new kind of popularity. So the very first motivation is either job or financial gains or promotion or kind of service benefits. So I did not to tell you what will happen if there is an oblique intention of doing certain kind of things. So I'll discuss it later on because I need to talk on many other things. Another motivation behind the research is desire to face the challenge in solving the unsolved problems. For example, or that is concern over practical problems initiates research. So yes, there are people who have the desire to face the challenges in solving the problems, solving the unsolved problems. So you might have heard about ICA or Indian Council for Agricultural Research or Plasma Research Center or Marine Salt Research Center, or you might have heard about IUCA or Center for Advanced Studies, CSR, or ICR, Indian Chemical Institute of Chemical Research in Bombay, or Indian Institute of Sciences in Bangalore. You might have heard number of institutions which are involved in such kind of active research. They are always, of course, they are offering some degrees. I've told you about these institutes. They are offering some degree, but yes, there are scientists. Most of the people are scientists, and they are doing a lot of, like National Aerospace Laboratory in Bangalore. Number of, TFIR and Tata Institute of Fundamental Research in Bombay. So TIFR, not TFIR, Tata Institute of Fundamental Research in Bombay. So you have number of institutions where people are having desire to face the challenges in solving the unsolved problems, like Bhabha Atomic Research Center, BARC, BARC. So number of institutes. So that's another thing. And desire to get intellectual joy of doing some creative work. There are people who don't want a degree. They do not want any financial gain. They do not want any kind of acclamation. Any kind of elevation. They don't want any kind of recognition. But they are getting intellectual joy. Like you might have heard about CNR Rao, who was a chief or principal scientific advisor to probably the previous prime minister, or you might have heard about. You just see somebody is pasted on my wall, APJ Abdul Kalam. So he was having a kind of intellectual joy. He is known to be rocket man. Do you know? Almost 10 kilometers away from Chandipur, there is a small island, and that island is now given the name of Abdul Kalam, APJ Abdul Kalam Azad, Abdul Kalam Island now. So there are people who are getting some intellectual joy and desire to be of the service to the society. People are there who are doing, like who told anybody to go for pasteurization or Louis Pasteur or Madame Curie or Alfred Nobel, or there are many people who did, or C.V. Raman, or they are doing, or Hargobind Khorana, or Venki, his name is Venkat Raman. So there are people who are willing to be at the doorstep of people for their scientific researches, and they want to be service to the society and desire to get respectability. Yes, of course, there are people who want a kind of fourth requirement in, you might have studied, certainly you must have studied, A.S. Maslow's hierarchy theory of need. So people are there who want to be satisfied in number 4 ladder of the motivation. And directives of government, employment conditions, curiosity about new things, desire to understand casual relationship in social thinking, and awakening and the like many as well motivate or at times compel people to perform research operations. So these are the things which are motivating a person to do the research. Now I'm landing down, I'm heading towards the types of researches. So, of course, you might have studied at many places what are the types of research, but I'll go quickly because we have spent almost 50 minutes, so I'm still having 50 minutes to be spent with you. So I would like to give you the best of the ideas and how to go for the design and how to do the researches. Descriptive research includes survey and fact-finding inquiries of different kinds. The major purpose of descriptive research is description of the state of affairs as it exists and present. And there is a word called, I have given a different definition over here. I'm not going into that. Sorry. And in social science and business research, we quite often use the term ex post facto research for descriptive research. So descriptive research and ex post facto research are the same, they are not different. Applied research aims at finding a solution for an immediate problem facing a society or an industrial business organization. And you see, these are the features of applied research that studies individual or specific cases without the objective to generalize, aims at many variable which makes the desired difference, tries to say how things can be changed, and tries to correct the facts which are problematic, and reports in common language. These are the features of applied research. And fundamental research is mainly concerned with generalizations and with the formulation of a theory. I tell you, most of the researches which are taking place in the field of economics, you'll find economic principle. Most of the time, you'll find that there are lots of assumptions. They assumes that the rest of the things are static and they're not going to change, and they are doing kind of fundamental research. And when they go in the practical applicability, you find a lot of other kind of implications, but then you have to correct it. And gathering knowledge for knowledge sake is also termed as pure and basic research, and this is given by Pauline V. Young, and that is again which is called fundamental research. These are the basic features of fundamental research, that it seeks generalization, that maybe you are using deductive reasoning, and deductive reasoning will take it to the generalization that you have studied maybe for a case study, but how can you generalize? And aims at basic processes, attempts to explain why things happen, and tries to get all the facts and reports in technical language of the topic. Now, as I told you, there are basically two types of researches. I told you about quantitative and qualitative. And quantitative research is based on the measurement of quantity or amount. And here is quantitative research. It is numerical, non-descriptive, applies statistics or mathematics, and uses numbers. My dear friends, I'll use your language. आप में से किसी को पता है कि हिंदुस्तान की सबसे छोटी थीसिस कौन सी है और कितने पेजेस की है? Do you have any idea that which one is the smallest PhD thesis in the country and how many pages it has? Okay, I'll not take much of your time. I'll tell you, probably his name, his scholar's name is T. Pati. And probably, I don't have much idea, but T. Pati, I'm sure, and it was on mathematics. And the thesis is only of 11 pages, only 11 pages. And I know about one PhD thesis, which is now renamed IIT BHU, earlier it was IT, and somebody did a PhD on engine carburetor, right? And that is on the design of engine carburetor, and it is ranging into 40 pages. So numerical thesis, you don't need a lot of descriptions. You have to formulate certain things, you have to find out some principles, some new dimensions, some new concepts, and new equations, new thoughts, and then you have to prove it. So it is numerical, non-descriptive, applies the statistics or mathematics and uses numbers. And it is an iterative process whereby evidence is evaluated. The results are often presented in tables and graphs, and it is conclusive. It investigates the what, where, and when of decision making. Now, here it is the entire, 8 different important features of a quantitative research method. Quantifying a problem, a random sampling, deductive reasoning, object-based research, systematic operations, advanced statistical analysis, graphical data representation, and numerical projections of perceptions. So that was about quantitative. Now we are coming to qualitative. Qualitative research is concerned with the qualitative phenomena, which I've told you that you are in a hotel. Maybe you like some place, your mood, you are overwhelmed with joy, you are moving, you are going to have a scenic beauty, you are having something. And here are the qualitative research. Like these days, you might have heard about, National Assessment and Accreditation Council is conducting accreditation process of educational institutions, maybe it be university or college or affiliating institute. So in that also, they have made a blending of 2 types of, data. One is quantitative. So almost 70% of data, 70% of aspects and metrics are quantitatively assessed and 30% are qualitative. Like I'm moving on your campus, I like your campus very much. Now you can compare. Somebody is going on the BHU campus and somebody is on Kashi Vidyapit campus and somebody is on Oxford University campus. And I realize Oxford University campus is quite different than any campus in our country. So while I was in different other foreign countries, campuses, so I have to measure. See, if I am having no perception, if I have not moved anywhere, my perception will be absolute. But if I have visited number of institutions, then my perception will be comparative. And then I'll be comparing in relatively in one context to the other context, and then I'll be putting my own kind of perception. And there we have to give certain marking on certain continuum or a scale or benchmarking. So it is non-numerical, descriptive, applies reasoning, and uses words. Quantities, numbers are very less, or numbers like Likert scale, as I told you. Its aim is to get the meaning, feeling, and describe the situation. Qualitative data cannot be graphed. It is exploratory research, and it investigates the why and how of decision making. Here are different 5 important aspects of qualitative research. Number 1, context-dependent finding by evaluating a subject or a predicate. Popular research is through communication, ethnography, and phenomenology. Critical analysis and assessment of the findings to identify its veracity and integrity. Building negative hypotheses and compelling readers to think the other way. Growing dependency through intellectual decency and confirmation. Now, here is the conceptual research, is that related to some abstract idea or theory. It is generally used by philosophers and thinkers to develop new concepts or to reinterpret existing ones. Empirical research relies on experience or observation alone, often without due regard for system and theory. It is data-based research coming up with conclusive which are capable of being verified by observation or experiment. We can also call it experimental type of research. In such a research, it is necessary to get at facts firsthand at their source and actively to go about doing certain things to stimulate the production of desired information. Now, mixed research is that when you are using more than one type of research, like quantitative and qualitative. And as I told you, most of the researches are both, they are mixed researches. You cannot go for any individual. But when you are describing your research methodology, that what type of the research is this, then you are mentioning it most, which is having a kind of majority of inclination, and then you are going to state that this is kind of qualitative or quantitative or investigative or descriptive or post facto, ex facto research or kind of thing. So mixed research involves the mixing of quantitative and qualitative methods or paradigm characteristics. Nature of data is mixture of variables, words, and images, and then you call it. And explanatory research uses correlations to study relationship between dimensions or characteristics of individuals, groups, situations, or events. So you are trying to correlate, you are trying to find out a kind of relationship or kind of comparison or kind of disassociation. Also, then you are going for explanatory research. And longitudinal research involves data collection at multiple points in time. Now, longitudinal research, I tell you what it is. The opposite technique of longitudinal research is known as one-time research. Means once you have done, and then you are not going to repeat it. But in longitudinal research, you are collecting data after certain intervals, and then you are trying to understand the trend analysis. You are doing a kind of trend analysis. So that is called longitudinal research. Now I tell you, in most of the cases, medical researchers are using longitudinal research, but marketing experts are also using longitudinal research. So those who are studying pattern of human behavior, those who are studying pattern of any disease or virus or any bacteria, they are also using this longitudinal research. And they can be divided into three different categories: cohort research, panel research, and trend research. So cohort research, what you are choosing a group of people. So I'll tell you what it is. So cohort research study is a particular form of longitudinal study that samples a cohort, means a group of people, performing a cross-section interval at intervals through time. It is a type of panel study where the individuals in the panel share a common characteristics, like those who are diabetic patients, those who are cancer patients, those who are a kind of patients who are having same kind of disease or ailment or kind of infections, and then you are putting in a group and people are studying them for on an interval basis, and that is longitudinal. Panel research traces the same sample over time. For example, graduate career tracks over the period of 1990 to 2000 for the same starting cohort. So a group is moving like this and then moving in which direction. So panel, there are people who will be studying on a panel and they are putting a kind of observation. Trend research, you see in the marketing, you see in the production side, and you see in the kind of putting a product line or withdrawing a product line or adding a new product in the line, or introducing altogether a new kind of product and brand, and making a kind of marketing strategy for that. So looks at this trend research or study looks at population characteristics over time. For example, organizational absenteeism rates during the course of a year. Then how often a people goes on the leave, that they have given example, but I'm trying to tell you what it is exactly. Field setting or environmental or simulation researches, clinical or I was talking about this longitudinal research. So these are the features of longitudinal research. So field setting or environmental or simulation researches, clinical or diagnostic researches, exploratory or formalized researches, decision on or oriented or conclusion oriented researches, historical researches. These are some other types of researches which we can add. So see, you can keep on classifying research on one criteria, on the other criteria, or on the other factor. But the basic thing is that you have to understand what kind of research you are carrying on. And significance of the research, there are certain significance I'll tell you. I'm still having 45 minutes, I guess, not less than 45 minutes. To those students who are to write a master's or PhD thesis, research may mean a careerism or a way to attain a high position in the social structure. This is the importance to professionals in research methodology. Research may mean a source of livelihood. And to philosophers and thinkers, research may mean the outlet for a new idea or insight. To literary men and women, research may mean the development of new style and creative work. And to analysts and intellectuals, research may mean the generalization of new theories. And I'm not going into research method and methodology because that's again will consume a lot of time. So basic aspects of research is what? So it begins with a question or a problem, and it answers systematic and scientific, purposeful investigation, formulating hypothesis, data collection, analysis, interpretation, conclusion, answer, and generalization. And a standard research study, now I'm coming to your point. I mean, see, you had been hearing me for a pretty long time. That was quite, basic and fundamental thing. But here is something which is very much important for all of you. And you have to understand this very clearly. What should be a standard piece of research? The very first thing is that objectivity. What is objectivity? There is a difference between subjectivity and objectivity. So, whatever research you are doing, that should be with an objective approach. That should be, your research should never be, biased. What is biasness? I'll come little later because, again, I have to cover a lot of many things. And, sometimes what happens, researchers are starting their work with a lot of enthusiasm, but they are not able to complete it. Why? Because they are missing the control. They don't have a control over their research. And then after a certain period, their supervisor also says, no, I can't guide you because you are not able to. Monuji, sometimes it is showing there is a connectivity problem. Are my students able to see me and listen properly? Is that okay on your side?
Yes, sir. There is not any problem of network.
No problem at all. Okay, fine.
Okay.
So a very important thing is that control. As a researcher, those students who are listening me, make sure you are formulating a kind of research proposal. You are drafting a kind of research proposal where you are having a complete control upon your work. You should have a very nice and precisely made plan. And generalizability, whatever you are making, finding out of your research, it should be capable of generalizing itself. It should not be, one fluke go, one shot go kind of thing. And as I told you, see, objectivity and personal bias, they are very clearly attached. And I'll go later on this. Reproducibility. Each research should be capable of reproducing itself. And the purpose should be very clearly defined. Let me have a bit sip of what. Thoroughly planned research, those who have planned their research properly, I'm sure they will complete it in time. Maybe you are taking some time in planning your research, but only plunge into it when you are comfortable, you are confident now you can do the research. Otherwise, don't go for it. So your research should be, your structure should be very clearly planned and high ethical standard. You are not picking, you are observing, see, for example, there are different kind of ethical standards. So, for example, in life sciences, there are animal houses, like in pharmaceutical science department, in bioscience department, in zoology, you'll find they are having animal houses, like they are having albinos, pygmies, rabbits, and other kind of hares, and they are testing their drugs on that. So pharmaceutical department, like in my university, on my campus, two departments are having animal houses. So they have to follow the ethical standard norms prescribed by the government of India for maintaining such kind of, animal houses. So a researcher who is doing the research, he has to observe and follow. One of my friend who is right now settled in Canada, he was doing some researches on lions, Asiatic lions. So he had to follow number of norms, ethical norms, while he was spending his time with the lions in jungle, national forest, national Gir forest. So at the same time, plagiarism or plagiarism is a big problem these days. I mean, probably in 2000, maybe 20 years back, one guy made a statement on quoting ICSSR that in India, one PhD thesis is reproduced 7 times. I don't know how far it was authentic, but some very responsible man who was a pro vice chancellor of a university, he made a public statement in the year 2000 quoting ICSSR. So I don't know how far. I mean, I'm not giving any kind of authenticity, but he quoted. No, what you are doing, you should be very much clear and confirm, very much confident about what you are doing. That is perfect. That is wonderful. So ethical standard and norms, 15% is the upper limit of similarity of content what you are putting in research report. So that should not go beyond 15%. Even it should not go 10%. What I feel personally. But even if and there are many mechanisms that what is included and what is excluded. So those all things has to be mentioned very clearly. And each thesis or each proposal should be having a very clearly revealed limitations. I'm having later discussion on limitations also. And complete analysis. I've seen people, they are doing research, writing. I mean, right now still I am having at least 7 PhD thesis to be evaluated with me. And while I'm reading, sometimes I feel really very sad that the researcher has collected wonderful data. He has used very fantastic tool for that. But when it comes for the complete analysis, they are living somewhere in between. But since they have done work to certain level, I cannot reject their thesis. They have done their job. But I feel little hungry for a complete analysis, and they should do it. And you also think about whatever you are doing. Maybe you are taking 6 months more, but you do a complete analysis. Unambiguous findings. Sometimes people are talking very vague and they are talking very much, clumsy or very much complicated. And the readers who are reading your research report are not able to understand what exactly you have concluded, what exactly you have found out, what exactly you want to tell your reader who is reading your PhD thesis or the research report. And conclusions should be some decisions. You should make some suggestions. You should give some recommendations. You should not leave it open. And that is why your research will become a very much significant one, strong one. Now I am coming to the research methodology. This is chapter number 3. In research report, every student has to include. Now here is very important thing for all of you, and I will go one by one in very detail of this particular research methodology. When you are writing your research report, this research methodology is chapter number 3 very specifically, and in chapter number 3 you have to mention your research methodology. Now, the very first thing comes statement of the problem. Can anybody tell me, I guess those 45 students who are sitting in the classroom, Monuji, at least allow some of the participants to answer my question. Who decided your topic of research?
So I want to ask some in front of everyone. Yeah, you have to come. Okay, वहाँ से बोल दीजिए शायद you can explain. Our coordinator, our supervisor, along. नहीं. आप
Good afternoon, sir. This is Sandeep Pandey, Research Scholar from Management.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, sir, the decision of the topic was in coordination with my supervisor. It was a mutual decision which was taken after the discussion with the supervisor and my own interest area.
Who proposed the topic?
In fact, sir, the kind of industry or the kind of, you can say, the sector I proposed, but the decision related with the topic was under his influence only.
Okay, that's wonderful. I hope all of you have done in the same fashion. Now
Yes.
I'm coming to the statement of problem. What should be the statement of the problem? I mean, statement of the problem is nothing but your topic, the title of your research, the title of your PhD proposal, and how it should be. Here I have given certain points. Are you finding any relevance of the topic what you have undertaken for your PhD work? Is it relevance to the present time? Or you have just taken a cue from or clue from somebody's work which has already been done, that you have to check it out. I mean, this is not the time when I should tell you, because you have already decided, because your RDC or RSC or whatever, DRC, whatever happened, and you have already made a final decision on that. But any topic, any damn statement of problem, whatever you're deciding, it should have a very clear relevance. And is it genuine? That who will decide? That has to be decided by either you or your guide or a third party who is objectively reading your statement of the problem. Is expert in the subject, who knows the kind of researches have already undertaken in the particular field. So relevance is important. Genuineness is important. And is your problem addressing real life issues, or they are kind of, just a customary issue or customary statement? Bringing new dimensions to the life. Any problem which you are going to study and address, which you are going to, see, in PhD, you'll be investing at least 3 years' time. And these days, PhD is a full-time program. Just imagine how much, effort you are going to put into the research. You just consider economic value of 3 years. These days, even UGC is offering, junior research fellowship. Even state governments, many of the state governments are offering research stipend and all that. If I take minimum 25,000 rupees per month, right? So in 3 years, you are going to spend that. And if you add, cumulative interest on that, it will go around 12-13 lakhs rupees. And that is only the stipend money. Then you are utilizing fundamental institutional infrastructure and so many things. So, and teacher, the guide who is guiding you, his time, so many other associates. So it goes in crores of rupees. After 3 years' time and economic value of spending of crores of rupees, whatever outcome is coming, is that going to address any real life issues or problem or not? Or that is going to bring a new dimension to the life or not? Or is that ultimately useful to the society? My dear friends, this is very pertinent question. And it should reflect society's genuine demand, and it should be appealing. I tell you, I go to deliver lecture on research methodology. You believe me, to science departments. I'm giving you example of a chemistry department. I was addressing a group of 70 students who were pursuing their research. I was surprised, almost 60% students' topic was heterocyclic analysis of something like that. Heterocyclic analysis. Now I said, who decided? They said, no, my guide has guided. My guide has told. I said, this is really blunder. Financial performance appraisal of X industry, Y industry. Why you are not trying to bring out some new dimension? Working capital management of X industry, this industry. Now, see, we should think about the problem. And PhD thesis is also a very, I mean, see, India is why lagging behind? Because we are not paying much attention on the topic. And sorry to say, sometimes we people like me, I've got it more than 20 PhD. Sorry, Jaiswal sir was having little older document. So sometimes we also find that, oh, student is not capable, let it go. Okay, complete करते हैं, काम पूरा करते हैं. नहीं, इसमें गाइड की भी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है, स्टूडेंट की भी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है, all are responsible. So we need to finalize our statement of problem in the light of all these things. I'm coming back to that. Now, aims and objectives. What is the aim and objective of your study and whatever you are going to? Sometimes people find it, they say, no, aims and objectives are the same now. No, they are two different things. I'll tell you how they are different. So here is this is a terminology. This has been coined by me. This is called TAGO. So TAGO means target, aim, goal, and objective. So like a cricketer, he wants to play the cricket and he wants to get included into school team or a kind of Ranji Trophy team. His aim is to get selected for India A team or Indian cricket team. His aim goal is to go and play Asia or World Cup champion and win the World Cup champion. And his lifetime objective is that he should become a wonderful cricketer for his lifetime. So that maybe they are in time, like you find that there's something very closer, then something is farther, then farther, and lifetime kind. So there are short-term objectives and there are long-term goals in any research. So when you are writing a research proposal, you should mention your aims and objectives very clearly. Most of the time I have seen people are not clear about, they just write customary things. Now, significance of this study, importance. Now I tell you, somebody was saying, no, the aims and objectives are synonyms. I tell you, my dear friends, in English language is something which is having no synonyms. Like in Hindi, we are having paryayavachi shabd. But in English, there is no paryayavachi shabd. All words are having their specific meaning and specific context and reference. Each word has their own meaning, own context. Like, lunch is lunch. It cannot be seen as dinner. Supper is different. Lunch is different. Dinner is different. Breakfast is different. Refreshment is different. In all kind of things, you are taking some food. But all those are called different. You cannot synonym. You cannot replace each other. So, in English, there is a particular. So, significance is not important. Importance is not significant. So, what should be the significance? Here is significance. How your research is going to contribute to the society. In what fashion your research will contribute to the industry, area, or whatever is associated with it. And how your research is going to contribute to the knowledge. And how, in what fashion it will contribute to the subject. See, one person is studying, say for example, one person is from OB area or psychology area or some sort of, and one is going to study the IQ level of male and female researchers registered for PhD degree in Kashi Vidyapit, Mahatma Gandhi Kashi Vidyapit. Now, by studying all such kind of problems, what kind of benefit will be to the management subject or the psychology subject or organizational behavior or to the entire knowledge or to the counselors or psychiatrists or some kind of people, or how the society at large will be benefited. So these things has to be mentioned in bullets. So your significance of the study has to be mentioned very clearly. I have already mentioned in very length what types of studies are there. Here is something area and scope of the study. This has to be very clearly mentioned. Now, area and scope of the study is what? One is geographical area and scope is functional area. So, geographical scope and functional area, you can say. So, you are picking up certain area. Somebody wants to say something, Monuji? I'm sorry, I don't know your exact name. What was displaying that I am repeating time and again. You may please tell me your correct name.
It's okay, sir, no problem. I think no one has asked any question. We have to continue.
Acha. So, area and scope of the study. Please mute your microphone because I'm getting some sound coming from your side. Mute your microphone, please. Yeah, I guess you have muted. Thank you very much. So, area and scope of the study, that is like, for example, you are studying kind of job satisfaction among bank employees working in nationalized and private sector banks. Now, you will take employees of what area? Maybe northern India. In northern India, you are specifying what states you are going to include, maybe Uttar Pradesh or Uttarakhand or Bihar or Hindi speaking belt. So that you are defining geographical area. At the same time, you are defining that you will concentrate on organizational behavior or human psychology or job satisfaction area, which is your scope of the study. In that also, to what level, like job satisfaction in terms of service conditions or job satisfaction in terms of emoluments, job satisfaction in terms of their interpersonal relationship, job satisfaction in terms of future prospect. There may be many dimensions. So that has to be also very much clearly mentioned. Now, here is a question to all of you. What is hypothesis? हाइपोथेसिस के बारे में बहुत लोगों से पूछता हूँ और लगभग कुछ लोग अच्छा जवाब दे देते हैं. There are many people who are not able to respond even sometimes. So what is hypothesis and why it should be there? I tell you, hypothesis is something which is telling you in what direction you have to move. So, for example, you are going on a railway station and you are boarding on train without taking ticket, and then ticket taker comes or TT comes and he asks, where do you want to go? Why you boarded on train without ticket? You say, sorry sir, I forgot to buy ticket. You please issue me a ticket. Then TT will ask you, where do you want to go? Then you will ask question, how far this train goes? What is the last stop? TT will say it will go to Delhi. Okay, give me the ticket of Delhi. That should not be the approach. You don't know about your destination. Where do you want to head? Where are you heading? You are not aware of it. So, as a researcher, you should know where are you going. And hypothesis is something which is telling you that where are you going. And how will you go? That is also something about hypothesis. Now, hypothesis is to be formulated. In Hindi, there is a word called parikalpana. In Gujarati, we call it utkalpana. So there is a word attached with it. There is some imagination, kalpana. Parikalpana and kalpana. There is a prefix that is called pari and kalpana, that is suffix. So, or kalpana is an original word or generic word you can call, and pari is a suffix kind of thing. So, what is parikalpana? You are visualizing something, you are imagining something. For example, many of you might have heard about me. I don't know if you have got any information about me or not. And somebody told you about Alok Chakrawal is this or Alok Chakrawal is that. He's working in Gujarat. He has studied in Banaras. He studied in Harishchandra. He studied in Kashi Vidyapeeth, blah, blah, blah. Many things you might have heard. Now you're trying to visualize me. Who is Alok Chakrawal? Maybe some of you might have seen me. Many of you might have not seen me. So you're trying to visualize. Now somebody told he teaches well, and somebody tells no, he is an ordinary lecturer or he's an ordinary speaker. So you're visualizing about certain things. Now what happens after visualizing? You just put a kind of idea in your mind that, okay, Dr. Chakrawal is this kind of speaker or that kind of speaker. Now you are actually hearing me for 1.5 hours or maybe 2 hours. And now you are actually, you are having two situations. One, your imagination, your perception, your kind of created caricature on the basis of some information which you got from your friends or guides or teachers or your seniors or supervisors, and one visualization which is before you for 1.5 hours as a teacher. I mean, I'm talking about teacher only. So you can compare the two things, whether I'm coming up to your imagination or I'm below your imagination or I'm above your imagination. So this one, which was your imagination, is called hypothesis. And when you are comparing it with the reality, that is called testing of hypothesis. So testing of hypothesis. So how does you develop a hypothesis? Hypothesis is not a mere kind of imagination. It is not only sheer imagination. It is imagination, but based on certain primary information. For example, you might have heard about, like I heard about America, USA, Manhattan. I heard about Harvard University, blah, blah, blah. So many things. I used to read and Harvard Business Review and research. But when I actually visited Harvard, and the kind of imagination, and when I really, compared those two things, then it was a kind of hypothesis testing. You have certain information, you have certain kind of, primary data, you have some literature about it, you have some kind of inferences, but when you are actually plunging into the problem, when you are actually getting into the problem, then you are getting the kind of insight, actual thing, what is happening in the field. So hypothesis is something like for example, I was talking about IQ level of a researcher studied for their PhD degree in Kashi Vidyapith or maybe Banaras Hindu University or any other institute. So in that case, what happens? There are people who are having a kind of perception. No, male students are having better IQ, or female research scholars are having better IQ. So either you are going on this way or that way. So that is because you might have met 10 research scholars who were female research scholars and they were very, very intelligent. So you made a kind of perception that, oh, research scholars registered on BHU campus are very intelligent, especially female. You met 5 research scholars, male research scholars who were registered on BHU campus. And then you found that they are very average people or kind of ordinary people. You said, no, male research scholars in BHU campus are not that much smart or intellectually strong as compared to female. So you made a kind of perception. You made a kind of hypothesis. One is better and another one is inferior. So this is a kind of hypothesis. Hypothesis is basically two types. When I said one is better, other one is not better, then it is called alternate hypothesis. When we are going for researches, generally standard practice is that we should proceed with null hypothesis. Means you are trying to visualize that, okay, there is no significant difference in male and female. Now, why significant I'm using? Marginally, one may be better and the other one may be not better. But when you are going to test it statistically, there are many statistical parametric and non-parametric tools like, you're using ANOVA F-test, you are using T-test, you are using chi-square test, or non-parametric, then you are going for Mann-Whitney U-test, Kruskal-Wallis test. A number of tests are available and you can do it manually, SPSS, SAS. There are a number of softwares and you can use it. So when you are going for testing it, then you find it significantly whether it is correct or not correct. Significantly, there is a difference or not difference. So in hypothesis testing, it is very important that you are proceeding with a null hypothesis. I'm coming to hypothesis testing and just a minute. So here I told you that whenever you are going to formulate hypothesis, you should go with null hypothesis. and hypothesis should be capable of being tested. So when you have structured the hypothesis in such a manner that they are to be tested, so your data will be collected in such a fashion that you are able to test them. I tell you one thing. Recently, I was evaluating one research thesis, PhD thesis, and you will wonder how many hypotheses were there. There were as many as sorry, this I should not be here. It should be E, limit testing of hypothesis, right? Okay. Anyways, I is a singular word and E is a plural word. So I have used a wrong spelling here. I will correct it. So there were as many as 43 hypotheses. You will wonder. So, my dear friends, when you are formulating hypothesis, make sure that you are formulating limited number of hypotheses. They should be very solid ones, significant one, and pertinent to your topic, and very much useful for the people, and the inferences should come. You can go for certain sub hypothesis under one major hypothesis, and then you can check it. But still, there should not be a big number of hypotheses. But otherwise, your thesis become very bulky, and maybe sometimes people are checking number of hypotheses just to make their thesis bulky. But I think that's not a big issue. But one should think about it, and it should be well designed and in line with the objective, and in line with the statement of the problem. And last one, but not the least, one can go without hypothesis. But I will recommend you should not go without hypothesis. You should always have. Now I tell you, there are people who say, sir, I did not prepare hypothesis. My dear friends, there is always a hypothesis. I tell you, hypothesis is nothing but conversion of your simple statement of objectives into technical terms. When you are converting it technically, these objectives becomes hypothesis. When you are converting them technically, these objectives become your hypothesis. And it has to be very well understood. Data collection, of course, there are people who are doing major researches on secondary data. Primary data is also very much popular these days. And primary data is a little, expensive kind of research. But sometimes getting secondary data is also very expensive one. In primary data, we need to go for, you may use number of, methods and techniques to collect the data. One is, observation and personal interview, telephonic interviews, structured questionnaire, mailing of questionnaire, Google Forms, schedules. These are the things, personal interview. So you may opt for any of the, but whatever data collection format you are going to use, that should be very well designed. If you are using questionnaire or you are going for Google Forms, these days Google Forms have become very popular. But Google Forms should also be structured in such a way that you are retrieving data in a very systematic manner, and then you can get online statistical analysis also immediately, because the form, Google Form, which produces a lot of backend data which you can use directly. Secondary data, you can use books, published sources, unpublished sources, journals, periodicals, newspapers, magazines, websites, portals, blogs, diaries, radios, podcasts, and government records. Now, I tell you, these are the data sources which you need to use, and you can have it. And tools and techniques. So, for example, you are a man of, say scientific tools like, chemical tools or accounting tools or management tools. They are one kind of tools, but at the same time, statistical tools and techniques, they are also being used. So here are tools and techniques, and then you have to do. So statistical tools, parametric, non-parametric, and selection, these are the things which you have to decide about and go further. I'm moving time and again because, that's thing where I'm having, and limitations of this study. That this is something which is very much important for you. Limitations means what? You are limited to what? I'm sure number of students in this group are from accounting background, and you must have heard about window dressing. Say, for example, you are doing financial performance analysis. Say, for example, you are doing financial performance appraisal of certain industry, and you are taking their balance sheets or audited records and all that. Now, if they have done window dressing, like they have done different kind of apportionment of profit, they have shown certain assets in different categories, they have shown certain liabilities in different categories. So your analysis will change accordingly, like liquid ratio, turnover, return on capital employed, all these things will change. So why that is changing? Because the balance sheet which you are using, that is not the correct one. So if your balance sheet is doctored or the data source is doctored, your study's conclusion will also be impacted and affected. You cannot be away from that. So that is the limitation. For example, chi-square test. Some people say it is parametric tool. Some people say it is non-parametric tool. Okay, minimum you have to go for 50 samples in parametric test. Chi-square test. Minimum you should have 50 samples. You are going to have 50. So why parametric test? Because the sample size should be large enough. There should not be much variation. There should be normal distribution. This and that. Blah blah blah. And to avoid that, people have developed non-parametric tests. But non-parametric tests are having their own limitations, and they may not predict the exact correct kind of outcomes of that. So that is one kind of limitations of the tools and techniques what you are using. At the same time, the other limitation is that say, for example, you are studying financial performance appraisal. So you will not cross this limit. You will limit your study up till only financial performance appraisal. You are not going to study the marketing strategy. You are not going to study organizational behavior pattern. You are not going to study production operations. You are not going to study sales operations. You are not going to study the strategic management. You are not going to study corporate governance. So your study is limited to what? Your study is limited to certain period. Your study is limited to certain area. Your study is limited to certain locations. And in the limitations of the study, you have to mention all these things very clearly. And as I told you, my dear friends, plan of this study. Now, standard plan means chapter of the study. The standard plan of this study is consisting basically 5 chapters. Now, there is no thumb rule of 5 chapters only. You can expand your research report in 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 chapters, whatever number. But a standard chapter are 5 chapters. The very first chapter should be introduction. The second chapter will come of review of literature and gap analysis, how you are coming and arriving on the conclusion on the statement of the problem. So that is the second chapter, which is review of literature. And I'm not having much of the time, otherwise I would have shown you. I have developed a kind of structured review of literature, and I give that structured review of literature to my students. So they do like that. So third chapter, which I'm talking, that is research methodology. Fourth chapter is data analysis and interpretation. And fifth chapter is finding, suggestions, and conclusion. These are the 5 chapters. Now, sometimes, some research scholars add one chapter in the name of introduction of units under sample. Like, for example, you are taken 7 banks sample. So you will give an introduction of 7 banks or 5 industries from the petrochemical sector, or you are giving introduction of, so they can add, no problem. Sometimes in the MPhil level dissertation or master level dissertation, they are adding just to add a chapter in like that case. Sometimes your data analysis is very voluminous. So you can divide your number 4 chapter into 2-3 sections or segments. So accordingly, you can do that. Another thing is bibliography. There is a very set standard of bibliography, and that bibliography, you may go according to the Chicago style, you may go according to the APA style, you may go according to the Vancouver style. That is reference style, as well as you'll find the bibliography method. Same time, budget is important, and budget should be of two things. One is, I mean, I've told you all these things, but I'm not going to tell much of these things again. Like limitations of this study, you can take a screenshot, or I'll send a copy of my presentation to Professor K.S. Jaswal sir, so they can distribute this presentation among all of you for your future references. And plan of the study, this I have told you. I mean, without coming to the slide, I have tried to explain you. Budget includes two things. One is time budget, and the other one is financial budget. Since you guys are, students of PhD degree with the MG Kashi Vidyapit, so you don't need to go for financial budget. But if you still you want to make a financial budget, you can make, because sometimes you may require some financial assistance and support. But time budget is important, that how you are going to divide it into pre-study time, empirical study time, survey time, analytical time, and reporting time. And financial budget is that, and bibliography is that it includes books, periodicals, journals, newspaper, portals, websites, news channels, media, personal interactions, authenticity, and miscellaneous. And this is a complete process of research flow chart, how it flows. The very first thing is defining the research problem, and that it goes for a review of concepts and theories and review of previous researches, and then you are doing the gap analysis, and on the basis of this you are formulating a research hypothesis, and then design of the research. Design of the research means this is how you are starting and how it will be landing. So the flow from one to final, that is design of the study. So you are designing. So for example, I'll give you what is design. So I was trying to do job satisfaction among bank employees, a comparative study of public sector banks and private sector banks. So I identified 7 private sector banks and 7 public sector banks. And among those, we will take, employee sample. Employee sample means top management people are less in number. So we identified 5 number of, respondents from each bank. They are middle, management people, they are big in number. So we decided to take 15 samples from each bank, and then ground level management. So we decided to go for 10 samples from the each bank. So that is how we decided, and then we tried to come to the conclusion. I was trying to do a productivity analysis of a bank. So in productivity, we went for capital productivity, we went for labor productivity, and we went for profitability. And we identified 5 different variables from each category, and then we tried to convert them into indices. And after those indices were converted, we came to a conclusion that how we are comparing them. So a design is that how you will proceed for your entire research. So the design of is research includes your sample design, and then you are collecting data, and then after collection of data, you are executing it. Analysis of data, and here will be the testing of hypothesis. Just a moment. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. नहीं चालू है मेरे हिसाब से तो. Oh, I think it is on. हाँ सर, खत्म करो भैया. मनु जी चालू है या बंद है?
यस सर.
नहीं चालू है सर, चालू है. चालू है. जायसवाल सर का फोन था. And then we are interpreting it and see. Sorry, कुछ डिस्कनेक्शन हो गया क्या?
यस सर, डिस्कनेक्शन आ गया. सही है.
So that was all. I mean, I'm having a lot of other presentations, so I'm not getting into that. Let me come to the point where I was talking. So, and then we will, I guess you are able to see this. Research design is the arrangement of conditions for collection and analysis of data in a manner that aims to combine relevance to the research purpose with economy in procedure. In fact, the research design is the conceptual structure within which research is conducted. It constitutes the blueprint for the collection, measurement, and analysis of data. This is what is the study about? Why is the study being made? Where will the study be carried out? What type of data is required? Where can the required data be found? This is what entire research design. What period of time will the study include? What will be the sample design? What techniques of data collection will be used? How will the data be analyzed? In what style will the report be prepared? And these are the features of research design. It is a plan that specifies the sources and types of information relevant to the research problem. It is a strategy specifying which approach will be used for gathering and analyzing data. It also includes the time and cost budget, since most studies are done under these two constraints. And it includes sampling design also. I'm not going for the sampling design in detail because again, I guess sampling design is going to be taken by somebody else, but okay. Sampling design deals with the method of selecting item to be observed for the given study, and it includes observational design, and observational design relates to the conditions under which the observation are to be met. Statistical design concerned with the question of how many items are to be observed and how the information and data gathered are to be analyzed. Operational design deals with the techniques by which the procedures specified in the sampling, statistical, and observational design can be carried out. Now, these are the research design constants. Number one, a clear statement of the research problem, procedure and techniques to be used for gathering information, their population to be studied, and methods to be used in processing and analyzing data. Here is a characteristic of a good research design. I'm not going into the detail of that. And type of variables, the independent variables, dependent variables, controlled variables, intervening variables, and moderated variables, and extraneous variables. These are the things which are coming in the wake of a research design. And I'm not going much into detail because again, we are at the fag end of the discussion. These are certain measurements and variables. And here I'm going to express my sincere thanks to you. Now we are having almost 5-10 minutes time for interaction. I would invite number of questions from you. So I think those things which have not been explained well in detail, you questions, and I would certainly like to make clarified explanations of those. Now the session is over to you. Please let me know.
Thank you so much, sir. Am I audible, sir?
Very much.
Sir, thank you so much, sir. This is Ayush. Sir, I have just told Jaswal to just present. So I'm highly thankful to you that we are highly blessed with your distinct deliberation on various dimensions of the research methodology, especially explaining research methodology, research design, hypothesis, motive, significance, and types of research, and many more in a very live and practical way using various tidbits, and your ease of explanation, which actually binds us with your aura of your deliberation. Once again, I am on behalf of all grateful and fortunate to have shower of your intellect on us. I am thankful to the convener of this workshop, Professor K. Jaswal, sir, Head Department of Commerce, for organizing such a wonderful workshop, which are very much relevant for us even.
And I am thankful to all the research scholars, Institute of Management Studies and Department of Commerce for actively and patiently participating in this workshop. I am thankful to the technical team, especially Mohammad Ashraf ji, and I extend vote of thanks to all the peoples who are associated with the organization of this workshop. Thank you so much all. And सर हम उम्मीद करेंगे कि सर आगे भी आप फिजिकली भी हमारे पास आए और इसी तरीके से आपकी ब्लेसिंग्स और आपके इंटेलेक्ट से हम लाभान्वित होते रहें। मुझे एक छोटी सी बात याद है सर, इट वाज अ टाइम कि जब हम लोग एक सेमिनार ऑर्गेनाइज कर रहे थे आज से 2-3 साल पहले, फिर आप यहाँ पे आए भी थे और उस समय हमारे एमबीए के बच्चे आपको लेने गए थे एयरपोर्ट पर। तो मुझे एक स्टूडेंट ने बताया कि आप उस दौरान आपके बहुत से फोन कॉल्स आ रहे थे और आप शायद 6-7 लैंग्वेजेस में बात कर रहे थे अलग अलग। तो ये जानकर सर बहुत कि सर वाइड और शायद उन सारी चीजों का ही असर है कि आप सबके फेवरेट हैं यहाँ। अभी आप आत्मनिर्भर भारत में वक्तव्य दिया था सर, तो उसमें भी लोगों की बात ये थी कि सर चक्रवाल सर है तो बस हमें सुनना ही है। तो
so nice of and so kind of you, sir. Thank you so much. I'm equally, delighted. I mean, see, giving back to your alma mater. Somebody call it alma mater, but the right pronunciation is alma mater. आपकी मातृ संस्था है, तो काशी विद्यापीठ मेरे लिए माँ जैसी है। इस संस्थान ने मुझे बहुत कुछ दिया है। मैं बनारस का लाल हूँ। बनारस ने मुझे पढ़ाया लिखाया। बनारस में मैंने 25 साल गुजारे और उसके बाद इस धरती से जुड़ाव है, आता जाता रहता हूँ। आप जैसे भाइयों से मिलना होता है। एंड द मोस्ट इम्पोर्टेंट थिंग कि जायसवाल साहब जैसे बड़े भाइयों का मुलाकात हुआ है, मिलन हुआ है, तो मेरे लिए बड़े एक सेटिस्फैक्शन की बात होती है आप लोगों से जुड़ना इस तरह से। और कुल मिला जुला करके ये मेरे लिए एक बड़ी अपॉर्चुनिटी है। मैं दिल से आप लोगों का धन्यवाद करता हूं कि आपने मुझे ये मौका दिया। थैंक यू सो मच।
थैंक यू सो मच सर, थैंक यू सो मच।
So I should quit now, I guess. Thank you.
Thank you so much.